Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name's Mallory, and I will be reading you a few stories today. So today I've decided that our theme for storytelling is grandparents. I know that during this time, a lot of us are really missing seeing people in person that we hold dear in our lives, and some of those people for a lot of us might be grandparents. So we have a few stories today, and I'm going to start with one called I Really Want to See You, Grandma. If you've heard of any of these stories or have anything that you would like to say about your grandparents, I would love to hear from you in the chat. So this is called I Really Want to See You, Grandma by Taro Gomi. Yumi's house is on a hill. It has a pink roof. Grandma's house is on a mountain. It has an orange roof. One day, Yumi really wanted to see Grandma. She headed out happily. That same day, Grandma really wanted to see Yumi, and she left her house cheerfully. Yumi took a bus, and Grandma took a train. Grandma arrived at Yumi's house just as Yumi arrived at Grandma's house. Oh no, Grandma cried. Yumi was also surprised. Grandma went home right away, and Yumi went home right away. Grandma took a taxi, and Yumi took a truck. You can see them passing each other by on their way home. Oh no, Yumi cried. Grandma said the same thing. I can't wait for Grandma. I can't wait for Yumi. I want to see Grandma now. I want to see Yumi now. Oh, they're getting closer. Grandma! Yumi! The next time we want to see each other, let's just meet under this tree, Yumi said. Grandma agreed. So even though they had a hard time seeing each other, they were able to find a special place where they could be together. Is there a place that you like to go to visit with your grandparents? The next book we're going to share is from somewhere kind of far away from Toronto, but you're going to start to see a little bit of snow and things like that around here too. It's called Fishing with Grandma by Susan Avenkak and Maureen Vstula, illustrated by Charlene Schwa. So if anyone has ever been very far north, or sometimes you see it around Ontario, when it's very, very cold, people go fishing on the ice. And there's a lot of different ways that people do this. Some people use huts, some people do not. People go at different times of the day. Some people go with families, some people go with friends or by themselves. And it's a nice way for some people to be outside during the winter months. And it's a very important tradition for people in Canada's Arctic region. This type of fishing is called jigging, and these two kids that we're going to read about and their grandmother are going to learn about some important traditions. As Gila and I ran up to Anna Tank's house, we could see her through the frosty window. sitting on the floor with a large sealskin in her lap. My sister and I were excited for a visit with our favorite elder, and we were hoping to convince her to take us out for an adventure. Hello, kids. It's so nice to see you, Grandma said as we ran through the door. Hi, Anataksak, we said. The house smelled of fresh bannock, and we could hear upbeat fiddle music playing on the radio. So we can see some neat things here, and bannock is a type of fry bread that different people eat all over the world, and it's delicious to have with jam or meat or honey. And this is a special knife called an ulu, and it's often used when making things like these sealskin mittens that you see your grandmother working on. Once inside, I grabbed some string that was lying on the coffee table, and Gila and I played string games as Grandma sewed. Anna, Tasiak, I said after a few minutes, we would love to go on an adventure with you today. That sounds like fun, Grandma replied. What were you thinking? I saw that Gila had made a fish with her string. Right here. How about jigging for fish, I suggested. Ati, let's go, Grandma cried. She was always happy to go outside and show us new things. Grandma told us what clothing and equipment we needed to bring in order to stay warm. She told me to layer my clothing so I would not sweat when I chipped the ice. In the fall, when the ice is just starting to form, it's thin and perfect for jigging. Where we are, we only get ice in the winter months, but way up north, they start to get ice sometimes as early as August, sometimes more September. Gila and I ran home and picked up all the clothes we would need for the day. A trip to the lake, aren't you kids lucky, Mom exclaimed. Grandma prepared snacks and a thermos, and we worked together to get all the equipment from the shed loaded onto the ATV. We put on our helmets and set off. It was a crisp, sunny October day, and I was glad Grandma had told us to bundle up. There was already some snow on the ground, enough for people to harness their sled dogs. In the distance, we could see some Inuksut on the hills north of the community. We held on tight as we drove down the bumpy road, rounding many turns towards the frozen lake. As we approached the ice, I could see it was very smooth and flat. There were already people jigging all across the lake. Grandma parked the ATV on the shoreline, and Gila hopped off and excitedly ran around in the snow. Grandma explained how to test the ice to make sure it was safe to walk on. She jabbed a long rod into the ice to see if it would break through. If the rod did not break through the ice, it was safe to walk on. We then took our gear out onto the smooth, glassy surface. This will be a good spot, Grandma told us. Not too deep and not too shallow. I was pretty sure my Natsiak knew everything. This is a chook, Grandma exclaimed, holding up a long wooden tool with a sharp chisel blade at the end. It is used to make a hole in the ice. You can see how it's pointy there. Lift it up and thrust it into the ice, slowly chipping away to make a hole. Grandma demonstrated a few times before handing the chook to me. I happily grabbed hold and began chipping. Wow, this is hard work, I said. As I continued to work, Grandma scooped away the ice chips from the hole using an ice skimmer. After a few more minutes, water suddenly came rushing through the ice. Ali and I, Grandma exclaimed, 1 hole done, 2 more to go. Why do you think they would need 3 holes? 1, 2, 3. When the holes were finished, Grandma showed us how to prepare our fishing lines to jig. The fish like flashy colors, said Grandma, so we should always use brightly colored lures. My favorites are lures with red on them. The fish really like those. I decided to try a brilliant pink lure. Uncoil your line into the hole, Grandma told us, until it's just above the lake bottom, about 10 feet down. We followed Grandma's instructions, lowering our lines into the water, and we were finally ready to start jigging. Just hold your jigging sticks and make small movements with your wrists, Grandma shouted from her hole. Wow, I can see the bottom of the lake. I can even see some fish swimming by, I yelled back. From time to time, I would look up from my fishing hole and listen to the sounds of the lake. Ravens flew by, calling cack, cack. I could also hear skidoos and ATVs in the distance. Every now and then, I heard excited voices shouting, "It's going to your hole," or "I got it." The ice was alive with wonderful sounds. After lying on my hole for a while and focusing on my line, I suddenly felt a small bite. "A fish! I've got a fish!" I yelled. "Alienite," Grandma called back excitedly. "Pull up the line as fast as you can so that you can hook it." Grandma came over to my hole and showed me how to bop on the fish on the head to stop it from squirming. Gila eagerly watched. We continued to jig for the rest of the day, only taking a break to have some tea and some yummy bannock. We ended up catching a lot of Arctic char, far too many for our family to eat. What could they do with the extra char? What do we think will happen? What will we do with our catch, Anastasiak? Gila asked. There are many people who are not able to come to the lakes. We will deliver fish to them, she replied. It is always important to think of others. At the end of the day, when we were back in town, we made deliveries, stopping at the home of many elders to share fish. When we got back to Grandma's house, she fried up the remaining fish and we had a delicious dinner with our parents. I felt so proud and also very tired from our great adventure with Grandma. Before we went home, Grandma gave us each a big hug. It is important to learn traditional skills and to know how to be prepared. Knowing what to bring, where to go, and what to do will help you to always have successful trips, she said with a smile. I gave her a big squeeze and said, "Thank you for teaching us. I can't wait for our next adventure." And here's some information on the fishing tools they used. So first we saw the fishing line and jigging stick, which is a simple fishing rod made out of wood and fishing line. Sometimes recycled hockey sticks are used as jigging sticks. Number 2, this kind of looks like a ladle with some holes in it, is an ice skimmer, which is a hand tool used to scoop floating ice chips out of a fishing hole. Number 3, the tuk, pronounced tuk, is a chisel used to break through the ice. So this isn't the one that we saw in the picture. This one has a bit of a flatter end. And then the number 4 is an ice probe, a metal rod used to check the thickness of the ice, which we saw the kid using in the story. I'd love to hear from you and see what types of things your grandparents teach you. A lot of grandparents teach kids to sew and cook, or they bake together or tell stories. I know that my grandmother and I love to read together, and we talk about what we're reading and share stories about that. She also loves to teach me how to play card games in the wintertime. So I'd love to hear from you too. Our third story today is very special. It's called Grandma's Purse by Vanessa Brantley Newton. Now, if you're watching with a grown-up who carries a purse, maybe if they grab it, then they can share with you during the story or after the story. So some books, when the author writes them, they include a dedication, and that is when you write your story and you think of someone else when you write it. And so Vanessa Brantley Newton says, for my Gullah Geechee Bells who carried history in their pocketbooks. And so she has given this book to her grandmother. Today, my grandma Mimi is coming to visit. When Mimi comes over, she always has new treasures to share. And no matter what it is, it comes from inside her purse. I can't look away from it. It must be full of some magical things. All of the things that make my grandma Mimi. Will you show me what's inside? What do you think? Yes, she will. I keep all kinds of things in my purse. You never know what you will want to have with you. I use my mirror to see myself before you see me. I use it to put on my lipstick so my lips are ready to give you a big kiss. And you have your smell good. Mimi laughs. Yes, I use my smell good so you know I was here even after I go home. I keep extra earrings in my purse in case I want to feel extra fancy, and my hairpins keep my hair just so. This coin purse holds my coins, of course, but it also holds memories. Your grandfather brought it back from Japan for me. So when I do something small, like put away change, I do something big and think of him too. Candy! You never know when you'll need a little treat. Mimi always passes me a piece of candy to suck on in church, right when I start having a hard time paying attention. Your phone looks like a toy. It has my friends' phone numbers on it. What else would I need it for? My glasses help me see your pretty face, and this scarf can keep me warm, or give me a cushion if I want to rest my head. Or it can make me feel fancy if my earrings don't do that on their own. So this is how Mimi gets to be Mimi. With everything in her purse, I can be Mimi too. Oh my. It looks like she has gotten to try on everything in Mimi's purse. The scarf and the glasses, some lipstick, earrings. Toward the bottom of the bag, I find a sleeve of pictures. At first, I only recognize one, me. But Mimi shows me who's in the others. There's Mimi a long time ago when she married Peppa, and another of my mom when she was my age. She looks like me, only without all of Mimi's accessories. There's one more thing at the very bottom. I couldn't see it until we took out all of Mimi's treasures, one by one. It is big, and it has my name on it. A purse of my own, and I know what will go in it first. What do you think she's going to put in the purse first? So those are my stories for today, and I'm hoping to hear from you more in the chat. I'd love to hear about what you thought of these stories and what you do with your grandparents. and if there's anything else that you want to learn about. Next week, I'm hoping to share some stories with you about different types of fabric and how people use different things. Because I think as the weather is getting colder, we will all be wrapping ourselves up more in warm sweaters and blankets and clothing, and that will be nice for us to talk about. But if you have any ideas or topics you would like to hear stories about and learn about, I would love to hear from you. So you can leave a comment for me, or you can email info@greenwin.ca. We have a little bit more time if anybody does have any questions or comments. You can stay on for a couple of minutes. But thank you so much for joining me today for our first session of Mallory in the Library. And I hope to see you next week.